Hello and welcome to the Book Tasters. From young adult to tween and everything in between, the Book Tasters serve up the tastiest reviews of today's and yesterday's greatest stories. I'm your host, TJ Burdick, and I'm joined by my co-host for the week, Ben. Ben, it is March. You're a basketball player. Are you really excited?
Oh yeah, but the March Madness tournament starts late this year, so I'm kind of bummed about that.
You know what? I am too. But it gives us a little bit more time to prep for it. Do you have any favorites for this year?
Well, obviously, I'm a Spartan fan, so I really want MSU to win it, but they're kind of struggling on the road this year, so we'll see.
Yeah, but you know what? They're coached by Tom Izzo, and he is a phenomenal coach. He'll have them ready. He always does.
Yep, he does.
Very good. I'm always pulling for Duke because they seem to always win.
Okay.
But I'm also a big Mike Krzyzewski fan. I think he's a fantastic human being. If you ever get a chance to read any of his books, really, really smart guy. Really, really smart guy. All right, so you brought a book with us today, but we're going to talk about that in just a minute. You also brought some fun facts for us. So why don't you start off with fact number 1?
North Korea and Cuba are the only places you can't buy Coca-Cola.
Oh, it's because of communism. It's because they can't have the products from the Western world infiltrating their society. Okay. What about fact number 2?
The entire world's population could fit in LA.
In Los Angeles, California. You know, I once heard that the two biggest cities in our country, obviously New York City and then LA, are roughly the same size, but one goes up because it's on an island, so New York, so all the buildings are high and huge, whereas LA just kind of spreads out wide. It's kind of like a New York City, but kind of smushed into like a pancake. Have you been to either of those cities yet?
No.
No? One day. I've never been to LA. I've been to New York, and it's really quite astonishing. You look at one building, and then you keep looking up, and you keep looking up, and then you fall over because they're so tall. All right, fact number 3.
The longest name for a place is 85 letters long.
Oh, okay, so I wonder, and we don't have it with us, but I can imagine trying to pronounce the word, right?
Yeah, it's somewhere in Australia.
Nice. So, you know, every single word has one stressed syllable, right? I wonder how many syllables that particular word has and which one is stressed. That'd be really hard to figure out.
Yep.
Yeah, all right, what do you got for us next?
The coldest temperature ever recorded was negative 144 degrees Fahrenheit.
So I wonder if, like, air even moves at that point.
That's a really good question.
Mm-hmm. It has to, I mean, if you're at 0, that's like below absolute 0, isn't it? Or is there? No, because it wouldn't be absolute 0, because absolute 0 would mean nothing could possibly occur. So it's hard to get to, it's impossible to get to absolute 0. But that's probably as close as we've ever gotten.
Yeah, probably.
I mean, I can imagine, I mean, we live in Michigan, and so even when it's like just 0, we're really cold. But negative how much? 100 and what?
144.
Oh my gosh. Can you imagine you just walk and all of your like insides would just freeze, and that, I mean, we'd just like be walking statues of ice.
Yeah, that wouldn't be fun.
I'll pass. Hard pass on that one.
Yeah.
All right, so do you have another one for us, or you got one more, right?
So, fact number 5, Libya, Kuwait, I don't know how to pronounce this one.
Give it a shot.
Mauritania.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
Saudi Arabia, that's all one name.
Mm-hmm.
Somalia, Sudan, and Yemen have all banned alcohol.
Now do you have any idea as to why that may have happened?
I don't know.
I think it's because of the religious beliefs in those areas.
Yeah.
I think it has something to do with not being able to control oneself, to be able to control one's limit, because obviously when adults drink alcohol, and when unfortunately underage people drink alcohol, they start to do things that they regret, and it's not a good idea. And I think that does a lot for religion. They want to make sure that they limit that. I know that's what it was. One of the things that happened in the United States during the 20s, during Prohibition, was they wanted to make sure people were living moral lives, and one of the things they thought was bad about that was alcohol. Yeah. How does that segue into the book that you brought with us today?
So in the book, Rash, alcohol was banned in the USSA, the United Safer States of America.
Oh dear. So how did the United Safer States of America get that moniker as opposed to just the United States of America?
And I believe the it actually speaks of it in the little piece of the book that I'm gonna read later about how in like the late 2030s a lot of things changed to like protect people more, I guess.
All right, we'll get to that in just a minute when you do the actual reading piece. But can you go into a little bit of detail as to what it means to live in this society during this time? Like, who's the main character? What's he struggling with? Why is it important?
So the main character, his name is Bo, and he is in high school, and and uh, the laws, I guess, are pretty crazy into like they're pretty crazy with how far they go to keep people safe.
To the extent that it's like
Yeah.
overreaching, right? Like,
Yeah, pretty much.
So like if you were to even run track, like track is something that that's not impact. You couldn't hurt yourself, but like in track, there's specific rules, right? Well, what
Yeah.
would that be?
Like there are so many so much protective gear that they that they have to put on, and it's pretty crazy with how much well protectiveness, I don't know what a word for that would be, they put into it. It's pretty crazy.
Yeah, so basically what you're saying is then that in the United Safer States of America, everything is regulated by safety protocol. Like, if you were going to run track, you have to wear pads. And I can imagine, like, the sport of football is illegal, right? Because, like,
Yes,
there's
it
so much
actually
impact,
is.
right? Okay. And so where's the conflict in this story? When does Bo start, when does he get into a problem?
So in the book, there's this thing called leveler. It's pretty much leveler, I think, is how you pronounce it. It's pretty much like a kind of pill that kids take in the morning if they've lost their temper any age over the age of 7. And Bo, he forgot to take his leveler in the morning, and he kind of got into a fight with this one kid, and so the government eventually, well, not the government, but he has to go to court and stuff, and then eventually he got sentenced to a few months in this work camp, which I'm not going to go into full detail of because it would kind of spoil a bit of the story.
And so that's the actual premise of the book. It's actually a really, really cool premise because you think about there are things that occur in today's world that are kind of like that. There are overprotective parents. There are children who are unwilling to take risks because they could get injured or things like that. And here we have a main character who's kind of a hothead. He's kind of he needs these pills to be able to regulate his emotions. And it's kind of anti-human to a certain extent. They won't let humans be who they actually are. And so he gets sent to a work camp, and then things occur that kind of set the story in motion. So I'm going to actually give you the book right now and pass it to you so you can find your pages. It's if you haven't read this book, Rash, you should know that it is written for kind of an older, more mature audience. There are some potty mouth words in there, right?
Yes.
But they're easily overcome. It's a really good story, but it's probably recommended for, I don't know, maybe a mature 6th grader and up for sure. Definitely not lower than that. But yeah, it's a fantastic piece. I'm going to have you get started on your pages.
Well, actually, I have to mention something, or else a part of it won't make any sense. So his family is, he has a grandpa who lives with him, and he was born like in the 1990s. So back when things were a lot more, well, as the USSA would say, dangerous. And he makes like homebrewed beer, that so it mentions that in here, so it wouldn't really make sense since we were talking about how the people have banned alcohol in it.
Got it. All right. You may proceed.
Back when Gramps was in high school, kids ran faster. Gramps claimed to have run 100 meters in 11 seconds and the mile in 4 minutes and 37 seconds. That was before the Child Safety Act of 2033. Now every high school runner has to wear a full set of protective gear, ather-safe shoes with lateral ankle support and 4 layers of memory gel in the thick soles, knee pads, elbow pads, neck brace, tooth guards, wrist monitor, and an FDHHSS certified sports helmet. We raced on Adsorbium track with its 5 centimeters of compacted gel foam topped by a thick sheet of artificial latex. It's like running on a sponge. Before the Child Safety Act, dozens of high school athletes died in accidents every year. They died from things like heat strokes, skull fractures, heart attacks, and broken necks. Today, high school athletes are as safe on the athletic field as they are sitting in the classroom. Gramps thought it was ridiculous. They might as well put you in a rubber room and see who can stomp their feet up and down the fastest, he once said. We used to run on hard-packed cinders, no helmets, no gel phone, none of that. I tried to argue, but Gramps, it's just as healthy. I mean, with the equipment and the Adsorbium, we probably get twice the workout, only nobody gets bonked. Nobody goes fast either. I ever showed you my old track shoes? Yes, Gramps, I've seen them. Gramps kept his old running shoes in a box in the garage. Every now and then he'd bring them out and wave them around and go on and on about the real athletes. You couldn't talk to him when he got like that. Look, Gramps, as long as we all have the same rules, the top athlete only gets the trophy. That's why you run, Bo, for the trophies? Heck, when I was a boy, reason we ran because we were getting chased. We played football back then, real football, tackle football. Football has been illegal since before I was born. I've seen recordings of old games and I can see why it has been banned. The only places they play it now is in some South American countries like Colombia and Paraguay. It was run like the devil or get eaten up. Gramps had drunk a few beers that day. Yeah, right. Who'd want to eat you? You'd be surprised, boy. It was the 20th century back then. Bears were everywhere. You mean you were chased by bears? Darn straight, boy. You don't expect me to believe that, do you? Heck, boy, some of the things you kids believe these days. How do I know what you'll believe? But I'll tell you this, you want to run a little faster? Just imagine you have a grizzly chasing you.
Very interesting. I really love how Pete Hauptman, the author of this book, kind of includes a lot of low-key humor in this, because I mean, Gramps' character is hilarious. I've read this book too. I know you've read the whole thing, but it's a very, very funny story, but it also mixes sports with growing up. There's a whole lot of different sub-themes in this book that are really, really interesting. That's why I loved it. So why do you love this book?
I don't know. I just think that it's interesting, like the way that he ended up in the camp was kind of interesting, and some of the things that happen in the camp are pretty, well, as the USSA would say, not very safe, I guess. And it's kind of just an interesting book to read with like hills up and down, like 1 second one thing's happening and then it goes down and something else is happening. It's a pretty interesting book.
Yeah, it is. It's definitely one of my top 10 books read in my classroom throughout the years. We always have a lot of sports, especially guys who love football. But it's
Yeah.
also really good. One of the things that I forgot to mention earlier is that it's really good talking about unforeseen friendships that you would never
Oh,
expect
yeah.
to happen, and they do. And I think that's another really, really key aspect to just growing up, because I mean, I myself, and I'm sure you've experienced it too, the older you get, the more friends you seem to be around, and you seem to realize that, oh, I don't have to be just a part of the football clique, or I don't have to be just a part of the actors, or I don't have to be part of just band. All my friends can be from different places and different things, and it's a really, really interesting way how Houtman actually inserted that into the story in such a very solid way. Yeah, wouldn't you
Yeah.
agree?
Definitely.
Fantastic. Well, if you liked this episode and you want to get the book Rash by P. Houtman, just again, quick disclaimer, there are some potty words in it, but if you're a mature 6th grader, totally would recommend it. It's a great piece, especially if you love sports and football, most in particular. You can go on to our website to listen to more episodes of The Book Tasters. You can find us at thebooktasters.com. That's THEBOOKTASTERS.com. And there you can subscribe to us on our podcast and on our YouTube channel. Ben, thank you so much for taking the time out and joining us and telling us about this awesome book.
You're welcome.